A very good morning to you. It is the 21st day of July 2025. It is the day that the Lord has made and you'll be glad and rejoice in it. Fred is back.
Oh yes.
That means a beautiful week ahead of us. Good morning.
It also means, good morning, that the Christmas countdown is back. And you're speaking of the Lord because you've said it is indeed the day that the Lord has made.
Yeah.
It is exactly 157 days to the Christmas Day 2025. Ikishafika 150, imwaka imeisha.
Imeisha. You know, somebody asked me, why are we counting?
Why not?
Days?
You know, the one thing that's very important in life is that you're always looking forward to something.
Absolutely.
So for me, I'm looking forward to Christmas because hapa katikati sioni kitu ingine. Ama you're looking forward to
Valentine's.
Valentine's.
Yeah.
My
name is Ann Odida. Karibu sana. This is Morning Cafe.
And my name is Fred Indemuli.
Let's take a look at the local dailies. We start off with the Daily Nation. Raila with Ruto until 2027.
DCI gone rogue. The Standard maintains stinging headlines.
The Star, Kenyans feel the pinch as family burden intensifies.
Why does it feel like a very old headline? Didn't we know this already? Anyway. Dirty cost of power. That's a People Daily.
All right. Taifa Leo na mpima Ruto hadi 2027.
Matters Business deported Ruto allies solar power deal sparks queries.
All right, and the State of the Nation.
All right, we'll be having Senior Counsel Kibe Mungai in studio. That's a constitutional lawyer, alongside Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo and Samuel Pugisio, former Majority Leader of the Kenya Senate and former ICT Minister. Stand by for this discussion starting at 6:30. Having two lawyers in studio, kuna mambo mengi legalist, but especially matters to do with the fact that quite a number of activists and people who have been arrested are now being charged with terror-related charges.
Absolutely. And of course, we'll be back to take a look at the local dailies. Lakini tuvuke border, we start off with the East African. ESC's plan to ease cost of air travel, and as the regional common market marks 15 years, airfare remains a luxury, yet the bloc has a draft to implement fifth freedom rights and reduce fees for travelers. This story has been covered on page 4 of the East African. Of course, just giving a breakdown of what's happening across the East African region. Samia's vision for $1 trillion economy. That's that, according to her Tanzania's 2050 plan. They say Tanzania President Samia Suluhu as she launches Vision 2050. This was launched last week on July 17. Other news, Museveni party locks out independents. New rules bar those who lose in primaries from running. Zim's diamonds have lost their shine. Miners sack hundreds of employees as forex crunch bites. Woes of Uganda's climate refugees to stay or not? That's the question amid payout delay. And Quality Chemicals at $5 million debt deal. And drug maker is looking to build another plant in Kampala. That story is on page 7. And on the top strip, South Sudan peace bid has collapsed. One of the principals, Riek Machar, is detained and clashes have compromised permanent ceasefire. Kenya opens doors, but its peers do not. Nairobi waived ETA for all Africans, but there is hardly reciprocal offers for Kenyans outside East Africa Commission.
Yes, the question is, what's the value for money? Mbona tunafungua gates na hao wafungui hao?
Sasa ukitaka kuingia Kenya for Africans,
it is free.
Free of charge.
Jaribu kuenda kwingine uone. Lipa kwanza bwana.
Deportation before ufike. The East African.
All right, let's go straight to Uganda. They're talking about preparations for elections 2026. And the curse of incumbency is a big headline on the front page of the Daily Monitor. They're calling it a bloody nose. A mini survey of the already declared results from the National Resistance Movement Party primaries has shown that majority of the incumbents kissed the dirt, or the dust rather, in the July 17th election. Dust must be seen. They actually kissed it, with a pattern pointing to a referendum against a poor service delivery and voters' desire for Kenya for better. This story has been given quite some extensive coverage. Acres and acres, pages 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, including page 1. That means a total of 7 pages of this paper just for this. And you know, I don't know why, but in Uganda they concentrate too much on this polling. Or now they're saying that, because you remember last week or the week before that, they kept asking, who are the favorite women to be elected? Who's the favorite MP to come back? Who's the new youngest prospect for an MP. Now they've done another one saying that all the sitting MPs, in fact, a majority of them, which is not very different from what happens in Kenya, they say in Kenya only about 20% make it back to parliament. 80% out nature.
Oh,
that one meaning that you're welcome to come back later. That's a big headline there. Who is not coming back? They call it the curse of incumbency. I don't know, come a curse of incumbency to happen 2027.
Is that their one-time way of... Okay.
You know myself.
My bad.
Museveni condemns violence and voter bribery in NRM polls, and I think there's too much focus on NRM. That's the National Resistance Movement Party. But anyway, it's the ruling party. And an obituary there for Professor Lubobi, who served Makerere diligently. And he passed away on Wednesday last week, aged 80, and he was eulogized as a humble servant leader who was committed to his duties. All right,
that's Uganda. Let's cross over to Tanzania. Gazeti la Mwananchi, watoboa ni swali tu anauliza pale. Panga la Chama cha Mapinduzi la wanyemelea polepole, Askofu Gwajima, makada CCM wakoleza moto wakitaka wafyekwe kwa madai ya usaliti na upotoshaji. Khamis Mgeja anasema hapa kwamba haiwezekani mtu anatoboa boti mnasafiri naye halafu anatoa maneno ya kuwa ataendelea kuwa mwana CCM. Huo ni unafiki uliobobea. Gwajima makes it back on the front page of...
This is a churchman,
yes,
whose church was actually closed, shut down. License ilivurutwa. Ni member wa CCM, lakini ni kama anatoboa mashimo kwenye boti. Anambia hutaongea vibaya na uko hapa.
What's happening also in Kenya? Huwezi ongea vibaya na uko hapa ndani.
Sasa hii ndio wameanza kusema na mnaongea vibaya.
Alright, vidokezo zaidi gesti mitaani vinavyochangia kuvuruga maadili. Masuala ya hapa. Na pombe ziko hapo. Ukurasa wa 2 na 3 wa gazeti hili.
Achana na shida sio shida ni gesti.
Okay.
Guest house hapo ndio inaleta shida. Inapotosha maadili, inavuruga maadili.
Mikopo ya 10% ilivyogeuka kete wagombea udiwani Chama cha Mapinduzi. Habari kamili katika ukurasa wa 6. Na UDOM yafeka kazi 9 za elimu ya walimu. Anasema chuo kikuu cha Dodoma UDOM kimesema hakitodahili kozi 9 za elimu walimu katika mwaka wa masomo wa mwaka wa 2025-2026, huku kikiomba wadau kutokuwa na taharuki wakati mashauriano yakiendelea. Na kule juu, makocha 16 wamempa heshima Shabalala. Mifumo ya MSD isomane na mingine, mfamasia mkuu asema, na madaktari wataja kipimo sahihi kubaini kutibu PID. Habari kamili katika ukurasa wa 5 wa gazeti hili.
PID ni pelvic inflammatory disease.
Tumechorewa hapo mbele. Gazeti la Mwananchi.
Tukisalia kule Bongo, tuangazie gazeti la The Citizen. Wanasema CCM descent, wale wanatoboa boti, wanadunga mashimo hivyo, lakini wanasema tuko hapa kwenye Chama cha Mapinduzi. Democracy or 2030 presidential race? That's a question there. And the recent push for greater openness and reforms by some prominent members has raised questions as to whether the underlying issue is internal democracy and respect for human rights, or early joking ahead of the 2030 presidential race. Now they're even talking about 2030, not even 2025. 5 years from now. Ile tunaambiwa nyinyi msiongee kuhusu 2027, fikiria 2032. Nasema hapa pia sio greater openness and reforms ndio inafanya watu wanazungumza CCM. Watu ni kujipanga, wanajipanga my friend. Umejipanga my friend. Political ambition, particularly around the 2030 elections, may already be shaping behavior. Time will tell whether they are laying the groundwork for future campaigns or just voicing concerns. Remember, President Samia Suluhu Hassan, if successful, she'll be serving her second term and final term. So by 2030, there has to be a change of guard, including the party leadership at the party level, kwa CCM. How disparities in degree preferences expose higher education gaps. That's a story on page 5. They say new data has revealed persistent gender-based program preferences in universities, highlighting both progress and lingering imbalances in the country's higher education system. Hata wale wana shida kule kwenye elimu ya juu. CRDB Bank wins 3 Euro Money Awards na wako pale walikuwa wamevaa vizuri for the evening. Nyerere and Tanzania's reluctant acceptance of IMF proposals. Nyerere bado wanamzungumzia. Miaka ngapi hivi? Arusha Airport set to begin operating around the clock. That's it's a game changer.
Yes, it's a win.
It's one of the busy airports in Tanzania. If they can actually operate overnight, why not? I think inakaa kama ile Wilson Airport. Ukitaka kwenda Tanzania unaenda Arusha. Hapo ndio EAC wako. And Stars take on Kenya as Sekafa pre-chan tourney kicks off. Hata wale wanaitwa Stars. Wanaitwa Stars wa?
Si Stars wa Tanzania.
Stars wa Kenya kuna Harambee Stars. Sasa kuna Stars wa Tanzania. Taifa Stars. Wanaitwa Taifa Stars. Taifa Stars takes on Harambee Stars. Sekafa.
So that the regional dailies, let's take a look at the weather situation today. It's quite chilly in Nairobi. Lakini tuanze na hii zoom.earth yako Freddy.
Ati yangu.
you love this thing too much. By the way, when you are away, we were not even looking at this thing.
Hamukuweza kudecipher ile issues ya
No.
You can see the just dots of cloud cover across the continent, even Central Africa iko hapa border ya Ethiopia na Sudan kidogo tu. South Sudan pale border ya South Sudan na Central African Republic kidogo. If you come down DRC kama kawaida lazima kuwe na mawingu kidogo tu. Alafu kule Nigeria. I don't think there's a lot of cloud cover on the African continent in comparison to what you're seeing in Asia. Angalia huko ni white. Africa ni kama, but anyway, that's how it is. In East Africa, a lot of the cloud cover, which is a bit minimal in comparison to the rest, is around the Lake Victoria region and central Mount Kenya region, dropping down to Tanzania.
West Africa, of course, kuna cloud cover.
Huko kuna cloud cover.
Tuanzie kule coastal region in Mombasa. It's 23 degrees this morning, it feels like 26, partly cloudy day. Highs of 26 degrees in Mombasa. Precipitation here today is 1.4 millimeters. Very minimal. Hapa ni shower tu.
Hii si kama weather ya coast. It's not proper holiday weather. Hii hata unavaa sweater ukiwa huko.
Tende Wajir.
Up north in Wajir, it is 23 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, at least a bit warmer temperatures there, highs of 32 degrees. No precipitation expected, but it is warm temperatures that will persist for the rest of the week.
All right. How about Baringo? It's 21 degrees, feels like 25, mostly cloudy day. Highs of 30 degrees in Baringo, precipitation here 0.2 millimeters, nothing.
30 is hot even for Baringo.
This is Kisumu.
Yes, areas around the lake region, 19 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy in Kisumu. Highs of 27 degrees, which is also a bit low in comparison to the rest of the country. 3.5 millimeters in as far as precipitation is concerned. Wataweza pata manyunyu ya mvua baadaye.
Lakini bado kutakuwa warm.
It's still warm.
I was there yesterday. The weather is good.
Great.
Finally, Nairobi, 12 degrees, feels like it. It's clear with periodic clouds. Highs of 23 degrees. Precipitation here, 0.1 millimeters.
You realize it's getting warmer because I remember before I went away on leave, the temperatures were averaging at 20, 21.
Yeah.
Now, when you're getting to 23 and it's persisting, I can see on Sunday, coming Sunday will be at 25 degrees, indicating that we are heading towards warmer temperatures. Pole tu.
We thank God. It's about time. Higher, 15 degrees past 6. Let's take a look at the traffic.
15 degrees?
15 minutes past 6. Thank you for that. Higher basi. Last week, you know, the traffic was umenikanganya akili.
Umeniona ukachanganyikiwa Ann.
You know, last week, these roads were very clear.
All right, you can see they're not as clear, and the Pangani interchange is already looking problematic. You can see here that this thread of red here is extending beyond. It's pushing back towards the Mathare Mental Hospital on Thika Road, meaning that there is already huge build-up there. And then extend EV into Moranga Road and into Forest Road as well, meaning anyone coming from Thika Road or Kiambu Road might experience some delays at the Pangani interchange today. But if you look at Thika Road, kule nyuma, sikubaya sana. Areas around Kasarani, not looking bad. Hata pale Githurai. Wanasema na wasei tumetoka Githurai. Ile traffic ya kawaida pale Githurai kuendelea. Thika Road not so bad. Outer Ring Road is looking good. all the way paka pale fedha na Tasia, it's green all the way. Hata matatu za pale pipeline hazijaamka. Jogoo Road, there is a problem here, and you can see ni kama barabara imefungwa. Kuna mali barabara imefungwa hapa. So if at all you can avoid Jogoo Road, please do, because kutoka pale Makadara all the way, ukifika tu pale End Time Message Assembly Church, just there, across Kwetu student residences, just before you get there, barabara imefungwa. So you can actually see there's a problem on Jogoo Road. If you can avoid that, please do. There's also traffic there on the opposite direction, heading from Shauri Moyo towards the other side. Pale kwa ile junction ya kwenda Isli kuna traffic hapo pia. Wapi kwingine? Kangundo Road. Sijui kama waliamka. Kangundo Road not looking bad this morning. So yes, I think the only warning we can issue right now is on Jogoo Road. There seems to be a blocked area there on around Makadara. So if you can avoid Jogoo Road this morning, please do that area around Makadara. The rest of the roads are not looking bad. The western side of town, all the way from Spring Valley, ABC Place into town is looking green. Na hizi barabara zingine zote za huku za watu wa working from home.
Very clear. All right, let's take a look at the quote of the day.
Don't save your best for when you think the material calls for it. Always bring your full potential to every take and be on top of your job, or they will replace you.
All right, let's take a look at the local dailies now. We start off with the Daily Nation. Raila armed with Ruto until 2027. Opposition chief unveils plan for grassroots-led national dialogue. Exclusive Orange Democratic Movement leader. This is an exclusive interview that was done yesterday by this newspaper, Nation. They say Orange Democratic Movement leader Raila Odinga has for the first time ruled out an early political exit from the broad-based government, with the Kenya Kwanza administration declaring that he is firmly aligned with President William Ruto, at least until the 2027 general election. In a wide-ranging interview, the former Prime Minister proposed doing away with the voters' register and allowing Kenyans to cast their ballots using only their ID cards. He also criticized impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua as divisive. The story is on page 4 and 5. Election with una vote na ID peke yake.
Well, it's a proposal that so many people have talked about. I don't think it's feasible in this electoral cycle. It's something probably to be considered after. It would also need a referendum, because in the Elections Act, the voter register is something key.
All right. The former Prime Minister said he will continue working with President Ruto under the current arrangement until the next polls, and will not engage in a premature 2027 succession talks.
Ana uhakika gani? Rigathi Gachagua was to work with the President Ruto until 2027 also. You know, in politics, you cannot really be sure at I will do this until. Anything can happen.
Lakini, you know, we had a newspaper before in ilisema maybe Raila is the one, you know, analeta some sort of decorum in this political scene.
Some stability.
Some stability, yes.
But
so
how certain is he that he'll still be relevant till 2027?
Well,
I'm just saying,
right.
A day is too long in politics. Anything can happen.
But you know, Raila is Raila. They say
Baba is Baba.
Baba ni Baba. Vidokezo vingine zaidi hapa on the front page of the Daily Nation. KDF locks meal allowance in new system, and KDF personnel will no longer directly access their meal cash allowance after a directive from military leadership locked the funds under the newly implemented pay-as-you-eat system. The directive aims to prevent service members from using the meal allowance as collateral for loans. Wow.
Wanachukua loan na hiyo kutoka kwa sako.
Oh, wow.
Alafu hawakuli.
Hawakuli, wanakaa njaa.
Sasa jeshi wanakaa njaa. Unaweza imagine nchi inachungwa na jeshi wanakaa njaa. Sababu wamechukua loan. Wamechukua loan na hiyo, unajua, if you're given an allowance and then you go use it, instead of buying food, you take a loan for something else.
Oh, wow. Harambee Stars play Tanzania in 2024 CHAN. This is on the top strip of the Daily Nation. They say warm-up Tony. This story is on the back page. They say with the playing time in the delayed 2024 CHAN at stake, Harambee Stars players will be out to catch the eye of coach Benny McCarthy today when they play home at Team Tanzania in Sekafa 4 Nations tournament in Arusha. The match will kick off at 3 p.m. at Karatu Stadium in Arusha.
Yes, of course it's still 12 days to go before the 2024 African Nations Championship, ile inaitwa CHAN. That's why tumekuwa tukiongelelea stadium kila siku. Stadium hapa, stadium pale. I don't know kama tuko tayari hapa.
Unaona ameunda. It actually looks nice.
Which one? But you know we need more than one. We need more than one. And I think we're counting on Talanta, what do you call it? There's a Talanta Stadium or something.
I was going to say Talanta Hela.
Taking you back to, sorry for this, taking you back to Raila Odinga. From that interview also on page 5, he has unveiled the plan for grassroots-led national dialogue. Ile inaitwa intergenerational national conclave. Mseme taanza ward level. Sasa kuna plan yote hadi national level.
Amekata ku read the room, eh? Activist Boniface Mwangi to face terrorism charges. He will be arraigned today after 2 days in cells. That's the Daily Nation.
There's a story on page 3, watu wenye wamewatch El Chapo na Narcos, mnafaa kusoma. There's a Mexican drug cartel. Kama umewatch Narcos ama El Chapo, unajua Sinaloa cartel. A branch of Sinaloa cartel is actually stationed in Kenya right now. They had some plant somewhere close to Namanga where they're making meth and packaging cocaine and other things. That story is on page 3. Read a little more. Inaitwa Jalisco New Generation Splintered from Sinaloa Cartel. Transnational crime.
All right.
DCI gone rogue. That's another typical standard headline. Call it impunity from arresting politicians critical of the Ruto administration over their remarks to accusing rights activists of terrorism. Umesikia hapo Boniface Mwangi atakuwa charged with terror-related charges today. The Directorate of Criminal Investigations, otherwise known as DCI, has veered from the laughable to the outright absurd. Tasked with bringing science and professionalism to law enforcement, the agency now resembles a political hit squad that is doing the bidding of the powerful by enforcing vendetta, silencing critics, and trampling on fundamental freedoms with impunity. DCI boss Mohamed Amin appears hell-bent on dragging Kenya into the ranks of pariah states so long as he keeps the ruling elite satisfied. The story is on pages 4 and 5. Na si mimi nimesema yote, nimesoma kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa The Standard. Pale wamequote Kalonzo Musyoka, who was speaking over the arrest of Naivasha MP Jane Kihara. They say she's accused of incitement, yet we have heard the president and his allies tell police to shoot innocent protesters. Yet an MP speaks up and is dragged to court. This is not law, it is repression. And the question today is, are they misusing the Terror Act, the Prevention of Terror Act? What was the initial intention of this act, and is that what the DCI is doing? Good thing we'll be having lawyers, Senior Counsel Kibe Mungai and Ishmael Nyaribo, Advocate of the High Court. They will be in studio. Na hiyo ndio swali moja nitawauliza. Can we term this as a misuse of the Prevention of Terror Act? All right, so that another interesting story is on page 6. Rift Valley's political spine cracks as fiery legacy succumbs. Wanasema kitambo, the political vibrancy that once we defined Kenya's Rift Valley has markedly waned, with many of its leaders now seemingly subservient to executive authority. From CJ to politics, Jajo could become king, and interestingly, we are seeing more and more of CJ Maraga, retired CJ Maraga, on the front pages. One of the papers has him on the front page. All right. That's a standard. Kule nyuma, Harambee Stars renew rivalry with Uganda, but today they are facing
Tanzania.
Mbona hapa gazeti ya Standard hapa wanatuenjoy, wanasema they'll be facing Uganda, but they're supposed to be facing Tanzania at 3 p.m. Ama it's a one-day tournament.
Even the Daily Nation saying Kenya, Senegal, Uganda, and the home team to use a week-long Arusha tournament to prepare for Africa event.
But today it's
Tanzania.
Tanzania versus Kenya, then Uganda and Kenya Thursday. Will be on Thursday.
Yes.
So a bit of an error there on the back page of the Standard. We're just pointing it out. Yeah.
All right. The Star, Kenyans feel the pinch as family burden intensifies. Average breadwinner supports up to 12 dependents.
Kwa hivyo kama wewe you do not have 12 dependents, you're not a breadwinner.
You're not an average breadwinner. This story is on page 4-5. Wanasema kila kitu sasa imepanda, inaitwaje? A pinch at the pump, pressure at the pump, unafinywa sana kule. From prison boss to felling Moi's Nyanza henchman. That story is on page 2. Phoebe Asio, she died last week.
Yes.
Talk of town, pimped up vehicle takes Nairobi by storm. This is mood. Matatu culture. The mood matatu that has NTSA approved custom number plate, that is 26 bucket seats with cup holders and charging ports, installed air conditioned unit, push to start ignition, backup solar power and cockpit DJ decks. The vehicle's launch at KICC was attended by a large number of Gen Zs. Wamesahau kusema hii ni project ya George Ruto hii. Yes, for the record.
Na kumenimona debate online wanasema hawa Gen Zs walisema Ruto must go, alafu wanaenda kwa launch ya matatu ya George Ruto.
Sana huko.
Shida, imeleta debate kweli.
All right, lakini wanasema just for the love of culture.
Yeah.
Well,
but how expensive can a matatu be? How do you have a DJ deck? How do you pay the DJ, the driver, all these fittings? Na bus fare kwenda Rongai ni how much? 50 bob.
Rongai, is it not, I don't know, 80 bob or 100?
Yeah.
All right. On the top strip, weak link in Gen Z United Front, no clear demand that is bi-weekly for Muga. And there's an advice there for President William Ruto, of course, mentor your children. Police, no, okay.
Alisema wazazi wachunge watoto.
Ni advice from...
Ile asiyefunzwa na mamaye, tafunzwa na risasi ya mguu.
Funzwa na police. That's the Star, fresh, independent and different.
And they said retired CJ Maraga will be on the front pages. He's there on the front page of the People Daily. And they talk about dirty cost of power. In Kenya's personality-driven politics, ideology often plays second fiddle to ethnicity and money. Cash doesn't just grease the wheels of campaign logistics. It buys visibility, influence, and even vote reach protection. You know, they're saying that CJ Maraga anasema yeye hana pesa. So anasema kampeni yake itakuwa funded by Kenyans. Kina watu wanauliza ataweza kweli? Because there's a dirty cost of power. Kama hujajipanga inaitwa war chest ya campaign. Utafika mahali kweli?
Unajua kuna watu hushinda na sympathy votes.
For presidency, I'm waiting to say. While Ruto's 1,000 dams promise remain a pipe dream, hapo chini na Gen Z's mixed signals as a throng launch of Ruto's sons matatus. Ndio hiyo. Mixed signals. Why some women get pregnant while on birth control? Well, your story on page 2 ya People Daily. Very interesting. Soma hapo ujifunze.
All right. What you and relocation to Nairobi means for Kenya real estate. Leo People Daily inaka very interesting.
It's a very interesting paper.
Taifa Leo na mpima Ruto hadi 2027 asisitiza kuwa kwa sasa ODM inashirikiana na serikali, ila mstari fulani ukivukwa itabidi chama chake kifanye uamuzi. Raila weka bayana kwamba chama chake kinaunga serikali jumuishi hadi mwaka 2027. Hata hivyo aongeza kwamba hajawahi kusema ODM itafanya kazi na UDA baada ya 2027. Asema uamuzi huo utafanywa na wanachama wakati huo utakapofika. Habari kamili katika ukurasa wa pili wa gazeti hili. Vidokeza zaidi, Mwangi kushtakiwa kwa ugaidi. Mwanaharakati huyu atashtakiwa leo baada ya kukamatwa majuzi na maafisa wa DCI kwa tuhuma za ugaidi. Dalili za shakahola nyingine. Hapa ni kama inahitaji maombi sasa. Mwili mmoja, maafuzi mawili na watu wanyonge wapatikana Kilifi na kuhusishwa na imani potovu. Wandani wa Gachagua sasa waingia baridi. Wabunge waogopa kujiuzulu nyadhifa zao kisha kuzitetea kwa tiketi ya chama kipya cha DCP ilivyodaiwa hapo awali. Kule juu, mlo bwerere kwa wanajeshi wakatwa rasmi na tiki njiani kuelekea Liverpool, huku Rashford akitua Barcelona. Vifaa hivi vyatwaliwa ili kuimarisha ushambuliaji wa Liverpool na Barca. Gazeti la Taifa Leo.
Tukimalizia Business Daily and a quick one here. Deported Ruto allies solar power deal sparks queries. It is a 155 million shilling estimated cost of 50 megawatt project. 40 megawatt solar plants have had budget exceeding 6 billion shillings. That's the top story on the Business Daily. Pale chini court stops friendly 7 million loan that grew to 69 million. Imagine unachukua loan ya 7 million. kidogo kidogo naambiwa imefika 69 million. Wow. A friendly loan. Pale picha ya activist Boniface Mwangi's wife akizungumzia wanahabari. Boniface Mwangi atakuwa kotini leo. Moi referral 6 investor to construct medical school. Shelter freak taps financier of 15 billion shilling share sale, and NSE drops minimum 100 shares trading rule. And that's the Business Daily.
All right.
Just a reminder, Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo is in studio alongside Wakili Kibe Mungai and Samuel Pogisio, who served as majority leader in the Senate in the 12th Parliament. Do stand by for that, coming up in a short while.
Tuangalie caricature sasa. We start off with the Daily...
The Star.
This is the Star. The state presents the goons, my lord. Lakini states wana present to hizo vitu ambazo wanajifunika nazo, the masks, but not the goons.
Goon ni mask.
Goon ni mask.
Wanaleta vijana alafu wanawavalisha hiyo, hawa ndio hawa goons. My lord. Oh my lord.
I wonder.
The Standard. They give us 2 frames here about what is happening in Nairobi with the DCI. Now what is happening in Northeastern. Terror-related charges ndio zinatumika hapa kwa watu wamevaa t-shirt ya one term in Nairobi. Meanwhile, kule in Northeastern ambapo kuna terror and terrorists are settled there, ni kama wanasalamiana ama wanakimbizana tumbio hapa pale. Ni kama hii terror-related charges. What it was meant for is not really working.
Daily Nation, we are ready to dialogue with Gen Z, lakini hii inakaa ni kama hiyo interview walifanya jana. Kuna meza hapa, very empty table ya government na broad-based, lakini kuna bag pale ya money bag.
Na huyo jamani nguruwe. Anakula tu pesa. Akisema we are ready to dialogue with Gen Z. Hii ni cartoon, sio mimi pesa.
Na hiyo imenona sana.
Imenona. Haiwezi avoid. People Daily. Kuna jamaa hapa, kuna mwavuli ya public trust lakini imetoboka deadly. Meaning zero public trust. If you're using public trust to shelter yourself from the rain, hapo utanyeshewa. All right, so just before we get to the break, we can take a look at the traffic situation tuone kama pale Jogoo Road if there's any improvement. The situation is still the same there. And just an update is that the side of the road that has been blocked is a side heading away from town. Yes? So this one is going to cause a buildup of traffic heading towards areas like Buruburu. But heading towards town, it appears it's a bit green, probably, and I can't see this section, so I don't know. But it looks much better if you're heading to town. So the earlier warning that we had said that you can avoid, please avoid if at all you're heading towards Buruburu. If you're coming to town, I think you can still use Jogoo Road. That's the best update I have for you. Kule kwingine Thika Road, Pangani Interchange, ni kama mambo imeenda Segemnege. Yes. The traffic has gone as far back as Utaring Road Interchange. Thika Road kinaumana. Poleni.
All right, now today being a Monday, Fred Arocho and of course Katelo Macy will be here for, weekend sports. Monday Blitz. Na pia zile vitu ambazo zitakuwa zina happen kule between Uganda, Tanzania, and of course Senegal this coming week. But meanwhile, do interact with us on our socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube, on X at TV47 News KE. My handle is at @Ann_Dida and the hashtag is Morning Cafe.
Well, my handle is at Fred Indimuli. See you after the break.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why. You and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home, do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water.
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47. Time now for us to take a look at the big headlines. The big headline on the front page of the Standard: DCI gone rogue. And this is in relation to the terror-related charges preferred upon suspects involved in the demonstrations, recent demonstrations. It is one of the big discussions we're having here. And activist Boniface Mwangi is expected to be arraigned today to face terrorism charges after 2 days in cells. We start with that.
Activist Boniface Mwangi, currently in custody at the Pangani police station, awaits arraignment on Monday, following his arrest on Saturday in connection with facilitation of terrorist activities during the June 25, 2025 protests. Mwangi was arrested at his residence before being escorted to his offices, where detectives conducted another raid, seizing multiple items including computers, phones and documents. According to the DCI, they also found 2 unused tear gas canisters and a blank 7.62mm blank round, claims that Mwangi's lawyer says are false and only a scheme to charge Mwangi with terrorism charges.
We can confirm and we can state with no uncertainty that those are things that Boniface did not have in his possession. Those were not things that were in possession of his office, and those are not things that were brought to our attention, so we do not know why they are saying now that they're coming out with terrorism charges.
Human rights groups on Sunday gathered at the Pangani police station in solidarity with Boniface, insisting that the raid at his home and subsequent arrest were undertaken without any evidence of necessary court orders and no guarantees of his rights as an accused person.
This intimidation must end, and it must end now.
Coming for Boni is something that we saw coming. They've arrested many young people and on the same charges of terrorism, arson, and those are the same things that they're talking about Boni.
Human rights defenders have condemned Boniface Mwangi's arrest, terming it as the latest, most blatant escalation in Kenya's crackdown on dissent.
The goons and the thieves that we see, who are the true terrorists, are roaming free, being protected by the police. This must change today, and we will not remain silent. Only 51 young youth have been released. We have hundreds left.
Mawakili wetu Jumatatu
There will be 100 of them to make sure Boniface Mwangi is out of jail.
Mwangi's arrest comes a day after filing a landmark case before the East African Court of Justice seeking accountability from the governments of Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania for his enforced disappearance, arbitrary detention, torture, inhuman treatment and indignity, including physical and sexual violence 2 months ago. Sheila Chelangat for TV 47.
All right, and those charges are based on the provisions of the Prevention of Terrorism Act, which defines a terrorist act as an act or threat of action which, one, involves the use of violence against a person, endangers the life of a person other than the person committing the action, creates a serious risk to the health or safety of the public or a section of the public, results in serious damage to property, involves the use of firearms or explosives, involves the release of any dangerous, hazardous, toxic or radioactive substance or microbial or other biological agent of toxin into the environment, interferes with an electronic system resulting in the disruption of the provision of communication, financial transport or other essential services, interferes or disrupts the provision of essential or emergency services, and prejudices national security or public safety, and which is carried out to the aim of intimidating or causing fear among members of the public or a section of the public, or intimidating or compelling the government or international organization to do or refrain from any act, or destabilizing the religious, political, constitutional, economic, or social institutions of a country or an international organization. Now, those are the wordings of the Prevention of Terrorism Act here in Kenya. Our question today is a use by the DCI of this act a misuse or abuse or of the same? This morning we're privileged to have in studio constitutional lawyer Kibe Mungai. Karibu sana wakili. It's good to have you in studio.
Thank you.
We also have Samuel Pogisio with us. Samuel Pogisio is a familiar face on this panel. He has served as ICT Minister in the Kibaki II administration, as Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament, as Senator of West Pokot, and before that as MP Kachiliba constituency. Karibu sana bwana Pogisio. Wakili, let's start from there.
Yes.
There's a lot of criticism, especially directed towards the DCI on the use of this. But if you look at the wordings,
yes,
the wordings are very clear. It's the intention of this Prevention of Terrorism Act that people are questioning. Was this the intended reason for the act to be in place? What the DCI are using it for now?
I do not think the Anti-Terrorism Act anywhere in the world, except in states like Uganda, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, countries like those which are not democratic, are used against political opponents of the government of the day. And therefore, there is no justification whatsoever. In Kenya, this terrorism, because we've been the subject of terrorist activities, we know the kind of people who are charged in those anti-terrorism courts. Largely, we have had the Al-Shabaab, people connected with the Middle East, and of course, other kinds of dangerous people. Like there were some people from Iran who are mysteriously released by this government within the first week when it came into power. Therefore, so that the departure is that we know who terrorists are. The kind of people now being taken to Kahawa law courts to be prosecuted with anti-terrorism charges are just normal political protesters. The second point that is crucial for purposes of this, I've actually been personally involved in at least 3 of those 5 cases that have been taken to Kahawa. In all of them, I'm happy and I applaud the magistrate and the judiciary for that they all did not find difficulty in setting free the people who are charged with this. It is another period of what is clearly political persecution being criminalized with the worst offenses in order to achieve what is clearly political persecution. But talking about the DCI, one of the major achievements of the 2010 Constitution was a requirement that the police shall be under the control of the Director General of Police. And the Director General of Police shall have political neutrality and shall work in a manner that does not favor one or the other side of the political groupings on political grounds. It is obvious that that the IG Kanja is really not in full control of the Kenyan police. And particularly, and this could be a historical issue, Mheshimiwa Pogisho can talk a little bit more about it, but I believe I read it from history. From a long time ago, the CID, as it was always used to be called, you remember people like Francis Sang and the people who were there during the time of Kenyatta, were always people who worked with the president of the day. So that the DCI historically tend to work politically. There is no sense in which, in the Republic of Kenya currently, you can say that Amin operates as subject to the headquarters of the police. Amin clearly operates as a political operator of the Kenya Kwanza government. And he has deep connections with it. That is a fact that we are all aware.
But Wakili, just looking at the wording of the act, and they say the law cuts both ways. That if a court is presented with this issues to do with serious risk to health or safety of the public, or section of the public, some things that we've witnessed, use of firearms or explosives, serious damage to property. These are some of the wordings used to describe a terrorist act. And if the law cuts both ways, a court may be justified in looking at this and saying, yes, whatever you're presenting to us is already in the law.
In one sense, yes. But the issue of terrorism, when you talk about intent, you read the word intent. The word intent is supposed to connect. Some damage might occur in the course of a demonstration, particularly a demonstration in which the police decides to act too aggressively and the people react. There could be some damage. But if the underpinning interest was to show political agitation, is completely different from where you can say Al-Shabaab is engaging in violent acts in order to pursue certain ideological objectives, which by their very nature are criminal or are terroristic by definition. Remember, terrorism is a global offense. It's not just a national jurisdiction issue. And that is why, for example, when you go to the court of Kahawa, you see like it was the American government, embassy, UNDP, and those other countries who are actually sponsored, even its constructions, in order to achieve a global agenda to fight terrorism. So that you actually jump across whatever the Rubicon or anything, when you start saying that the people who should be dealt in the political jurisdictions are being dealt that way. But there's another related point that is also important. When we went to Kahawa in these three cases, one of the things that we were able to tell the magistrates and to convince them was this. Unlike in the days when Koigi Wamwere could be said to have raided Bahati police station and they were charged and people would start wondering, did it happen or did it not? In all the current, in Kikuyu, in Dagoretti, somewhere in Nyahururu or Karao, we actually could see the people on video. People who raided those police stations. Those people who raided those police stations and the police were sitting aside doing nothing. Their part of the narrative is, these are government-sponsored thugs who are engaging in terrorist activities. But now, the people that we see on video, they are not before the court. So that for the court, because the judges and magistrates are expected to be rational people, the question must be asked, if we are not seeing people who we saw on video being prosecuted anywhere in Kenya, then why should we believe that somebody who was not even anywhere involved in anything on the particular day is the one being charged? So that the issue is that a time really must come that what clearly appears to be a mindless and childish kind of narratives not to be run on Kenyans. Because you cannot just have gangs raid a police station, not a single shot is fired, and then you start collecting people and saying, these are the terrorists. It can't wash in the 21st century.
Okay. Bwana Pugisio, karibu sana to this conversation. And lawyers like saying the law is very clear. That is an expression they like saying. How clear it is, we still don't know. No, this one, I'm just reading words directly from the Prevention of Terror Act. And they talk about results, an act or threat of action, which one involves use of violence against a person. It also involves the use of firearms, results in serious damage to property. And some of these things have been witnessed. We've seen goons and destruction of property, which has been very, very well documented. But it's the intention of this act that we're questioning, and whether or not the current charges being preferred against these suspects is a misuse or abuse of the same.
Thank you, Fred. And I will not dwell on the technicality of the law, because we've got lawyers who can deal with that. But let me just say this about our country, that when people in the offices like the DCI and others find that the control of the crowds and maybe activism has gone a bit too much for them, they will always try and find a way to round up people and charge them with something like terrorism to keep people away, scare them away from the streets and so on. You would not like to be in a country which is full of terrorists, and that's what we become as a country. It looks like the message is out there that Kenya is undergoing terrorism. And what does that do to us? Using a law like that, I mean, there are many other laws that can still punish the person. There are many other crimes that can be, applied to these people who have been arrested that do not need to be sounding like Kenya has gone into a terroristic state. I mean, if it is arson, it's arson. If it's robbery, it's robbery. but to go and lump kids who don't even understand, first of all, what that law is, and put them under the law of terrorism. What about when we catch those who are Shababs? What do we do with them? What law are we going to, what are we going to apply to them? Mm-hmm. Because I mean, it should be very, very clear that if things become too much for you, don't go to a place where you're putting Kenya at a risk of being known as a state under terrorism. But that does something to you also, because you're killing the tourism industry for that country, mm-hmm. and even the investments in that country. Because now, if every day there are 300 terrorists, surely that country must be going down. And that is not good for us. And I think Amin and others should know that while they're actually a police force or a criminal investigating unit, they also protect the integrity of our country, mm-hmm. as Kenya. Those kids are not any harmful. They just you see them coming just with a smartphone. That's all they have, really. A flag of Kenya. That's all they have. Tell me how a terrorist carries your own flag, mm-hmm. To a demonstration, and so on. So let's find a way in which we determine what demonstration is, what agitation is, and what separate that from terrorism. So since I cannot go into the technicality of the law, as you have read mm-hmm. it and interpret it, I'm a lawmaker. We probably made that law, but I'm not so sure that it should apply to these kids who are there. And you can even see. Do you feel there needs to be further clarification on who this law should apply to? Because simply looking at the words, then the DCI could be, in a way, cheeky enough to use the same law in a different way. Exactly, but he has other options he could use. This is an extreme case, mm-hmm. And I'm not so sure that we have enough personnel to handle if you start bringing so many cases. But I thought I heard former Chief Justice Maraga say in court, he said that the only reason they can apply that law is to try and deny these kids mm-hmm. bond or police yes. bond or bail. so that they just keep rotting in jail. There would be no other reason, really. And so, but I'm very glad that we have lawyers who understand these things, and the threshold has not been met for it to be that way. And therefore, even the judges, and you must, by the way, congratulate our judges, because they also understand. And so they bail these kids out. And so once you have those that have been bailed, the young people have been bailed, and then you're going to arrest even the most unaware, those who don't even know, they've never been in court of law before and so on. Their first offense is terrorism. You know, that's not very fair to those kids. Right. You're not being very fair to those kids. And in any case, as Wakili has said, you cannot bring people who have no weapons, and yet the people whom we saw committing those crimes on television, on camera, are walking free, scot-free. They are not the ones before the court. These days, you cannot pretend that you're hiding anything, because these days we have cameras everywhere. Mm-hmm. You get caught. So, I mean, if you fail to prove the case of terrorism once, you fail to prove that case twice and 3 times, you actually watering down that particular law.
Right.
Yeah.
Is this a misuse or abuse of the Prevention of Terror Act, is what we are asking today, now that we anticipate activist Boniface Mwangi to be arraigned today on charges related to this. I'll be giving Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo an opportunity to contribute to this, but that after the break. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe on TV47 with me, Freddie Ndimuli. I'm just looking at the headlines. A big one on the Standard, DCI gone rogue. And this is in relation to the arraignment of quite a number of suspects on terror-related charges, basically stemming from the June 25th protests and the Sabasaba demonstrations as well. And we have a number of lawyers of note in studio. Constitutional lawyer Kibe Mungai, and now Ishmael Nyaribo joins us. Wakili, question is this a misuse or abuse of the Prevention of Terror Act? Because we just read it, and some of those things we're talking about are there in black and white.
Yeah, just before, when we were on break, we cracked a joke. You know, this is exactly what the deputy president, then now the president, was complaining about in Huru regime, when he said that the regime had weaponized the criminal justice system, picking who to charge, trumping up charges against them in court of some nature. You know, Fred, I think let's say this, in the end, whatever time that is, the government cannot prove allegations of terror against those young people or anybody charged because of protests. They cannot. This judiciary is full of great men. There might be people with some suspect character, but the judiciary, in the end, when you look at the Commonwealth habits, when you look at habits in other jurisdictions, and you look at what is called terrorism against the state, local, or cross-border, in the end, they cannot prove that. Why? Because the law understands exactly what is terror and how it is carried out. So police must prove that that has happened. But in the end, Fred, I can assure you, they will not prove that charge.
That's in the end. But Wakili, if a matter is presented before a court of law and a determination is made, then the charges do have what they require, probably in as far as bail is concerned and bond terms, and also in terms of how long you can hold a suspect as investigations continue. Could that be the main intention?
No, I would tell you, why they're actually going through this act is because the Terrorism Act allows the police to detain you more than 24 hours. Detaining you. Immediately they produce you in court, and even they detain you for 30 days. There has to be reasons from the court. There has to be reasons. I mean, no, we are trying to investigate, or he's communicating with so-and-so, so we are trying to, you know. So I think that after that, when they are in court, and citizens need not be afraid, even about this bond thing they are discussing about, that, oh, you're giving young children, you know, 100,000, how can they raise? That should not be a worry, because it is not entirely upon that judicial officer you are appearing before to determine whether you will be locked or not. It is not. There are bail conditions that were set by Nuruddin Haji before he left the ODPP, which spell out how a person should be conducted when he has been arrested and how he should be granted bail. And whether police can grant bail, again, in terms of the Terrorism Act, they will not give you. They will not grant you bail, but they will have to go to court and they will detain you for a longer period. But after they have produced you in court, if this judicial officer is a person who is waiting for a telephone call from higher officers, that is okay. He will say 100,000. That is not the end, and this is where Kenyans need to understand their rights. You can go before the same judicial officer and review those bail terms. That's one. You can also run to the High Court quickly after you have been denied the bonds you can afford and request for a review at the High Court. I mean, this has been done a number of times. So yes, I'm not suggesting that it is correct for judicial officers to be, you know, that excessive when they are actually, but I am reassuring your viewers that they should not lose hope that they have been told. You can go, actually the law allows you to go back to the same magistrate and explain your circumstances. And then you can see in this one, the Law Society went in and fought hard to review those bond terms. So it is not cast in stone that if you have been told you will pay 100,000, you pay 100,000. But let's go back to the terrorism activities. I personally have a matter I handle at Kahawa, where the charge is actually that this particular celebrity insulted a very popular person, politician. It is not in this country. It was, these are foreigners, but it is alleged that she did that allegation when she was here. Now, this is insulting somebody. This is just like you are saying, I don't like how you look, your face is bad. And of course, that agitated that politician so much that she actually came and reported the case here. And then it was taken to Kahawa. So we were asking, why in Kahawa there are so many calls from Kibera, then you come to Milimani, you go to Makadara. This is just a normal crime. Why is it here? So because the people who, the first responders within the police service, if they hear a matter in a certain way and they misinterpret it to be terror, they will cost the government so much money. They cost the country so much money, by the way. You know how Kahawa law court looks like. It's that guarded. So they unnecessarily put the state into unnecessary expenditure. So what I'm trying to tell you is, and this is the problem with Kenyan education, you know, we read so well, we go so higher, and then we manipulate our intellectual capacities by interpreting a situation that is blue to call it black.
But Wakili, listening to you, and I can sense that you're trying to give hope or to reassure Kenyans that this may not hold water at the end of the day. But quite a number of young people are the ones behind the dock. And some of them, they don't have a proper understanding of the law, the provision, Prevention of Terror Act, and probably they do not have access to legal representation. This in itself, because we're talking about Gen Zs, has the potential of creating a lot of fear, instilling fear in a lot of Kenyans. Do you see it as a risk that it may succeed in lessening the kind of voices that...
Yes, Fred, we always complain about the men and women who are around the head of state. We always complain because what is the National Security Council doing about this? And by the way, Mheshimiwa Pogisho has hinted something that didn't go so far to explain it, that what kind of image are you portraying? Forget locally. What are you telling the international community? That Kenya is a country under terror by its own people. So when you visit that country, what are you saying? So I agree that these are young people. That is true, Fred. The question I'm trying to canvass is, are these terrorism charges? The answer is no. Can they be sustained? The answer is no. Why are the people in the National Security Council allowing Amin and his ilk to go ahead and charge people under a crime that doesn't exist?
Okay.
It is not terrorism. It is not at all terrorism. It can be destruction of property, causing bodily serious grievous harm, and it can be prosecuted in normal courts. But the point I'm trying to say is there is no law that says that if you are charged of terrorism charges, that you cannot be released on bond and bail terms.
Right.
And if you are a citizen and you can prove where you live, it is your right to be given those favorable bond terms. And if not, you can actually move to the higher court and have them reviewed. Yeah.
Wakili, you want to add anything?
Yes. Let me add something. First of all, you had asked the question about the validity of these charges. So the question as to whether you can charge political protesters with anti-terrorism charges is one that I am aware will soon be challenged before the High Court. Mm-hmm. Because we believe those are not courts that are meant for political protesters. And the matter could actually already be in court had it not been for the scale which 20 or 30 lawyers, including myself, involved in these things, we've had to go to so many courts at the same time. And today, Boniface is being presented to court. So that even has a serious element of inconvenience for many of us, the advocates. Remember, the young people that we are talking about, initially when we went to court, we had been instructed with regard to these DCP officials. Mm-hmm. But when they were presented, obviously they were presented with people from Matu, from Gilgil, from Roiro and elsewhere. So we were told, since all this is arising from the same issues, continue defending them. So in a sense, those young men were lucky that lawyers who had gone on a separate mission ended up meeting them in court and they got free legal services. That may not happen everywhere in Kenya. And here there was a happy coincidence. Issue number two is Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka was the senior lawyer who was with us when we were challenging these issues in those cases that we went there. And he was explaining, he was a member of parliament where the Anti-Terrorism Act was passed, I believe, sometime in 2012. And he was saying this was actually supposed to be for terrorists. It was defined having in mind dangerous people. And he said that in one of those days when we were there, he actually saw certain people, some from Iran and Pakistan, who are actually being charged with terrorism. And he was asking the magistrate, I think yesterday I saw people that in the normal imagination of Kenyans go under the description of terrorists. And we had the kind of weapons they alleged to have had. These people here, even nobody is saying you had guns, you had this. And I think the issue of Boniface, when you hear them say that they have planted something that we associate with terrorists, I think the CID are learning, because the magistrate were also surprised that people whom you don't even accuse to be armed are being arraigned before the court. I think they have decided, let's play it better. Let us allege that Boni had some offenses. The third issue, as I wind up on that issue, is the issue of politics of desperation. You know, when you say you have started using the sledgehammer to kill a fly, I think it describes you more than the people you are targeting. In fact, it is only a very weak government and a desperate one that would do some of these things. In Uganda, which I follow closely, for the simple reason that Kenya is being taken the Ugandan direction, you will find that in the first 10 years of Yoweri Museveni, at least 7-8 years, he did not have to deal with his political opponents through the anti-terrorism law. In fact, it started after he actually lost the election to Besigye. Then it is where now he started saying, let us call Besigye a terrorist. Even here in Kenya, and the reason why we are taking this thing very seriously is that in Uganda, they started from up. So that you say it is Besigye more than his supporters who is the terrorist. In Kenya, we are doing a bottom-up, and the police are trying to help the government of the day to do a bottom-up, because the strategy has been this. You start with ordinary boys, you go to youth officials of DCP, then you go to an MP like they were trying with Jen Kehara, so that you are sent up there until you have that great day when you can say Rigathi Gachagua is a leader of a terrorist movement. This is something that everybody can see through. But again, in the 21st century with the 2010 Constitution, and you are elected democratically, it is a shame that we have gotten into this space less than 3 years into an election.
Today, activist Boniface Mwangi is expected to face terrorism charges. He'll be arraigned after 2 days in cells. Is this misuse or abuse of the Prevention of Terror Act? Is this a weaponization of the criminal justice system? It is one of the promises President Ruto made. While Deputy President, while campaigning for the presidency, he promised that in his tenure, if elected president, he would bring to an end the weaponization of the criminal justice system. What is happening now to the promises the president made? Yesterday, while at a church service in Ukambani, the president said that he has not and he did not overpromise. It is one of the stories we covered here at TV47. Let's have the story on Ruto saying, I did not overpromise.
Speaking in Machakos during a Sunday church service for the installation of Bishop Benjamin Kalanzo at AIC Bomani, the president reassured Kenyans of his commitment in delivering on every promise he made, saying he never overpromises, but rather has high ambitions for the country.
Mimi nimelaumiwa sana. I've been accused of overpromising. Mimi nataka niwaeleze, it is not overpromising. We are raising our ambition as a nation. Yes, we must strive to be better and excellent. That is my mission.
Ruto said while the government's agenda is ambitious, he is confident that it will be achieved by ensuring that no part of Kenya is left behind in development.
I want to tell you, every promise I made, I intend to keep it in my term. Yale nilisema kuhusu uchumi wa Kenya. I meant it, and it is happening. Our economy is growing.
While noting that he has no intentions of running away from his promises, the president reiterated his commitment in transforming the economy of the country as well as strengthening the health sector.
SHA is only 9 months of implementation, and the signs and the signals and the success is evident because ni commitment nilifanya, and it is a commitment I want to keep because that is what it is.
At the same time, Ruto has said that the responsibility of the police is dealing with criminals and not parenting, calling on the parents to be responsible in parenting and raising a generation that is morally upright.
The police are trained to deal with criminals. They are not trained in parenting. So, if you surrender your children to the police, what do you expect?
Other politicians were denied an opportunity to address the congregation. Chichi, Josephine, TV 47.
All right, the president spoke about a lot of things, including some advice for parents, telling them, asiyefunzwa na mamae, tafunzwa na ulimwengu, basically. But on this issue of promises made, it is very clear that the president made a promise on bringing to an end cases of extrajudicial killings and weaponization of the criminal justice system against political opponents. He says he'll keep his promise within his term. Don't you think that what we're looking at now is already beyond that? Boniface.
Well, thank you very much. It is actually the definition of his term that he probably defines it as 2 terms. Because if it is within this first term, then the president should begin with this promise and let these children live normal lives, whatever he calls children. Because if he begins by now fulfilling the promise against weaponization of this criminal system, he could actually start now by ending those things, end those abductions, and of this unwarranted arrest of young people, and this business of anti-terror act, anti-terrorism law, and just allow these kids to be normal kids. I mean, they are not. And by the way, sometimes we make a mistake when we say your children, surrendering your children. I think sometimes the system believes that these are babies. You know, they are maybe kindergarten children or, you know, primary school kids. These are people actually who have already finished university. A good number of them. They're educated, they have degrees, they have all this. They are not children. That's how we treat them all the time. And I would like to say this. I think if the president were to listen to what he said yesterday, when he goes home and listens to it again, we will begin to think that the police are the worst parents in this country. I mean, if you say, for example, the police are not trained in parenting, so which profession trains parents in this country? You are a parent, and you know what it means to be a parent. And also, the police are not necessarily trained to deal with criminals. We're dealing with the police service, right? Not only criminals. I mean, if you had an issue, even just of a good certificate or whatever, of good conduct, or if you are going to complain, you're not necessarily dealing with that. The police are trained in a broad sense to be able to tell how to handle the citizen. And the citizen pays that person his salary. Let's not create a situation where the police think their business is criminalize everything. The police are trained. If they're not trained, train them now. Change the curriculum at Kiganjo. Let them be humane in the way they handle. Let them be parental in the sense in which they handle people. So that I think that was one of the things that he said, which I don't think makes any sense at all. But on the issue that he said about keeping his promises, I just need to remind the president that assume that you have the next 1 year and a half. It means you must accelerate your fulfillment of these promises now. Because if of course, he was telling it to a church. In a church, nobody can ask questions, okay? In a church, you just say your things and people go and think about it and talk about it. And you can see the comments already, if you're on social media now, how people take all those statements. So I think sometimes using the forum of the church has been a problem with the politicians. I want to think that the president should actually be very kind and compassionate as a parent himself. Okay? The police may not be good parents. The president then needs to be a good parent himself. If he's trained in being a good parent would be compassionate, not weaponizing the criminal the system, not weaponizing, not attacking, not kidnapping, not all these things that are done in the country should be done away with, so that we understand you mean parenting in that sense. Parenting, by the way, doesn't mean just your own household. A parent is a parent, universal. You understand exactly what's supposed to be done. And I can see the sense in which the parents of those kids We call them kids, but they are really grown-ups, and they're actually professionals, a good number of them. They are wondering what has happened. Are we saying then we are all bad parents and only a few people are good parents? Are you a good parent when you have money? Are you a good parent? When are you a good parent? And let's not underestimate the power of this generation, the Gen Zs, because they already have formed themselves into a questioning generation. They're questioning us and saying, how do you run this country? What happens to the rule of law? They're asking us, what happened to accountability? And if you miss that point, by the way, you will arrest all of them and just jail them. You need to understand, why are they like this? And it's not a parenting issue, it's a philosophical issue. These people are leading us into a direction. We need to ask them, what do you mean? Let us understand them. Instead of really just punishing them for that.
Okay. Wakili Nyaribo, what do you make of the president's attempt to disabuse the country of the fact that he made promises that many believe he has been unable or unwilling to keep?
Yeah, you see, I've always said you cannot control the words you speak. Once they have gone out of your mouth, that is it. It's upon the people to interpret. You cannot come out and try to interpret what you meant. I mean, even in our society, you are not given that privilege. You have said words, they were spoken in English. If they were to be spoken in Swahili or other language, still there are people, that's a society, they would interpret it the way they want. So, I don't know why the president actually feels great when he speaks. You see, leaders world over mark their words, imagine the audience, look at the audience, then measure their words according to leadership ethics and governance. But our president seems to hop from statement to another one without actually getting worried that apart from what he is thinking, the world around him will have the right also to think the way they want. So that is common, not only in this one. We've seen when he says, I want to build a church, just like that, just out of the blues, I want to build a church. And when people say how much it is, then he comes up and says, no, I mean, it's my own money I'm going to use. Even those statements, if you look at them, they would border on what actually would look like, I don't want to use the stronger term, but I want to say the speech is not considered correctly. And I always keep asking, does the president sit down on a round table with the peers, not peers really, sorry, I don't mean peers in terms of other presidents, but I mean with his team at the leadership level, so that they can tell him, Your Excellency, if you go this direction, this is how people may interpret it. The communications experts around him and generally national security and all that. So that, are you trying to tell people that you can fake it? As CEO of a republic, are you telling people you can fake it? We can say, I promised to give you, SHA or, insurance. And then you finally go up and say, when we all know that people are being turned down in the hospitals, they're being told you need to grow your disease so that it can meet the threshold of SHA, and you're coming in public and saying it is working, and you're calling it fact. Economy has grown when you work arithmetics with World Bank. The borrowing capacity you have, can we give you more money? That may have been structured now. Is that felt in the local Mama Mboga when she's buying in Mboga, when you promise them that they would be having decent life? Do we have Wi-Fi in the markets when people are selling their potatoes and they can be able to access it? So I don't foresee a situation where the head of state can actually change from what he is doing. And that is why you can see now people have come up and said, no, thank you. We are quite honestly fed up with this trajectory. We are going to look elsewhere. And you can see now Raila Odinga is saying, no, I will stick with my brother until 2027. If you look at my handles, I've been asking, when is Raila bolting out? I know that's not a discussion, Fred, but I'm just saying that people now, in every corner, when you ask, how are you feeling? Including the head of state himself. When you listen to his whispers to his friends, he is aware, fully aware that the only thing that the citizens have not done is to anoint a particular individual and say, ni wewe. And then people will now start campaigns proper. So I think that Kenya Kwanza has, in all honesty, let down Kenyans. It's not about we like so-and-so or we don't like him. It's not about disrespect. It's not about protests. The truth is, what you promised, you have not given. Now you have come back and said, no, I didn't promise you. I was raising the bar on the country's ambition. Mm-hmm. That is quite laughable. It's really, really unfair to the people of Kenya.
Okay. In the president's justification, he says, yes, as Wakili put it, that he simply intended to raise the aspirations of Kenyans to a different point. But for him to find the need to justify why he made those promises, it would mean that he is under pressure to deliver on the same. Do you think that he is, in reality, under a lot of pressure, and he knows probably that he has not done very well?
Of course, that's a fact, and I start by agreeing with my colleague, Mr. Nyaribo, that those words that we once spoke, we can't take them back. And therefore, since we can't take them back, my starting point would be during the electioneering period for the 2022 elections. I was on record, I'm sure the people can play me video, saying that electing President Ruto would be a bad idea. It has actually turned out to be a very, very bad idea. So I say that in order to make the point that when finally Kenyans, the majority, as declared by the Supreme Court and IEBC, decided that it is him who is going to be president, personally, all these promises he had made, I consider them to be lies. I did not hold him to very high bar, to that let him deliver this or the other. All that I hoped, now that we were not doing very well at that time, let him not lower Kenya's standards. Let him stop digging the hole. But what we are seeing, for me, I don't care about the promises he made. I never believed them. But I care that even those things that were working have been dismantled. They have been compromised. There is the Linda Mama. Women could give birth easily. There is the issue of schools capitation. There is the issue of university education. There is the issue that people no longer have money. Many businesses are closing because of cash flow and lack of demand. All these problems are significantly worse than when he became president. Those are things that I would say I care about, because if you cannot improve things, at least don't make them worse. But it has happened that we've grown worse. Now, second significant issue is the issue of respect. When you are head of state, it's actually a complete different. It means you are the head of all of us, whether we voted for you or not. It's different from when you say you are the head of Kenya Kwanza government, because those of us not in Kenya Kwanza are entitled to oppose your policies. But when you are head of state, you must honor the citizenry. And the citizenry here, we know his legendary disrespect for the youth. He calls them children, even when, as Mheshimiwa Pohisio has said, these are university people. When I came to the public limelight fighting for some of these issues, I was actually about 23 to 26. Is when we would go to demonstration, we would write articles in the People Daily newspaper, or People Weekly as it then was, and those are the activists and going to demonstrations for a new constitution in 96, 97. We were actually Gen Z, and we knew what we were doing. We wanted a better country, which was finally rewarded when we got the 2010 constitution. So that even those good things like the 2010 constitutions that we have are actually product of the Gen Z of the day. But now my bigger concern is he has moved the disrespect from the youth to Kenyan parents. To honestly say that a failing government that is taking young people to anti-terrorism court, that almost everybody no longer has money. We were having another discussions the other day. We were saying we work twice as hard to get 1 million nowadays that is used to be in the past. Some of them were mocking and saying we work thrice as much to get 100,000. Things are not okay in Kenya, and that is a fact. So when you say that after things have gone bad, that it is a problem of parenting of our youth, I think it was done in very bad taste, because at that time, and you've seen the jokes in the media, people say, okay, let us put on the table the issue of parenting and see if you are not doing well, then we must start with your parent. How are you parented yourself? Because you open a Pandora's box, as it were, when you say that there is a problem of parenting, so that when you see you look like a thug, then we take it to your parent. But it may have nothing to do with your parent. Your parents may have been very good Christians, but wewe ulikuwa mwana mpotevu. The third point is the one of undermining institutions. During this time when we were in Kahawa for about 4 days, you know, in Kahawa, I don't know whether you've been there, it's a very seriously guarded place. In the compound, you had all these people with big rifles, AK-47 and G3s. Then you had a lot of Subarus and a lot of plainclothes policemen out there. Because now these proceedings were taking very many long hours, you would end up saying, oh, wakili this. You know the normal Kenyan conversation. And you get the sense, and I think I must say this on television, that even these policemen who are being told to do these kind of things, they do not have convictions. Because like when they say die to me from a Subaru, I actually ask you, you guys look like the ones who've been abducting and killing people. Of course, they laughed, and then they say, why are you bringing these people here? Then they say, you know, it has got nothing to do with us. You go fight with those people who are doing this to these young men. So that there is even there, and that is why I'm saying the judiciary, you could see that with the magistrate, and I can confirm. I saw that with all, you know, these policemen are young people. These are fellow young people, but they look a little bit more educated when you see them, okay? So that it is a situations whereby in the undermining the institutions, the police themselves, you get the impressions they are being told to do things that they do not believe in. And that is why, and that is where the starting point, and I thank the Standard for that. They are laying the blame where it lies. And it doesn't just end up with DCI Amin. I think it ends up with the IG, it ends up with the Attorney General, but more importantly, the President. The mere fact that you can command people to do certain things, I don't think it means that they are doing it because they believe in it. They actually don't seem to believe that those are terrorists, and it's an embarrassment. So let us not embarrass everybody. You are embarrassing the youth by letting them down. You are now embarrassing parents. Then you are making the police to swear false affidavits. They know who did all these things. And you are making them swear false affidavits that it is protesters who raided.
But Kibe, I don't know if you asked Kibe if he could, I don't know, when he was talking about parents, by the way, what is the intention of the president when we read his mind? What does he want from parents, by the way? You know, I don't know if you've hosted parental experts, because when a child grows up to about 7 years, he's developed all his faculties, and then he starts going to school. That's why we take them to school. I mean, in the past, we took them at school at that stage when they have put their hand on the other side, because they have developed their faculties. Then they start meeting the world, the teachers, churches, whatnot, mosques. What is this thing in the president's mind that he wants you to do to a 20-year-old adult, a young adult? That should be an issue, Fred, you can buttress.
Right.
And then when you look at that thing which the president wants, couple it with building a church in the State House, are you seeing a situation where the head of state might actually be at the forefront of building a philosophy that is bringing out certain people who are hardened for not using the word, I don't want to use the word criminals, but what do you call this thing of grooming terrorists?
Mentorship or nurture?
No.
Radicalizing.
I'm sorry for losing the word.
Radicalizing.
Radical. Are you seeing a situation where you bring the parents together to believe in your philosophy? Because you can't blame people just because they have a different philosophy of both parenting and bring up families. And then now you're saying we want a church, also including a church in State House. Look at the monarchies, the way they have been bringing up religious and spiritual aspects to their leadership. What are we looking for? What are we likely to bring out? Where you have parents who are kind of worshipping you or obeying you in whatever you want, in your philosophies, and then bringing a church type of radicalization so that you bring out people who are strongly behind you. I don't know, for lack of better language, I think that is a very wrong direction to go.
Okay. Anyone wants to add anything on that issue of parenting before we move on to IEBC, because it's also a bigger discussion? Okay, right, let's move on. And talking about respect for institutions, the IEBC has found itself, especially even before it starts its work, having to answer questions about their independence and how they're going to do their work come 2027. The questions about IEBC independence and how and whether or not they'll be able to run a free and fair election come 2027 has been a subject of debate. It is part of the conversation that we are having here at TV47 as well. Let's watch that story as we get to this conversation.
National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has cautioned that the continued political meddling could derail critical processes, including the long overdue boundary review, pending by-elections and the nationwide registration of new voters.
Ile tunaomba viongozi hasa wa kisiasa muache kuleta siasa isiyo na maana kwa IEBC, tuwaachie wafanye kazi. Let's leave them to settle in so that they can acclimatize and start working.
Speaking during a function at Kilgore's constituency Sunday afternoon, Wetangula said reckless remarks from some politicians threatened to undermine the credibility and legitimacy of the IEBC.
Bunge wangu mlioko hapa na wale wengine, tukifikia makadirio ya pesa hata ya supplementary, tusaidie IEBC kwa kuongezea pesa wafanye kazi, ili tukifika uchaguzi ujao tusiwe na shida yoyote.
This comes after Wajir lawmaker Fatuma Jeho claimed President William Ruto will win the 2027 polls by all means, openly suggesting that leaders from the northeastern region will compromise election results in benefit of the head of state in 2027 elections if the region's numbers are not enough. Her sentiments have since sparked mixed reactions from a section of leaders who have also called for IEBC and NCIC to summon her in efforts to strengthen the electoral body.
The women rep of Wajir County specifically has said that she is going to steal votes for William Samoei Ruto. Personally, and our community support William Samoei Ruto. But then again, why are you causing fuel and tension and fueling tension in this country?
Nchi yetu ni nchi ya amani, hatutaki uharibifu wa mali, hatutaki damu imwagike.
Wetangula stressed that the Commission's plate is already full, overseeing voter registration, auditing and cleaning the current register to remove deceased voters, and undertaking long-awaited boundary delimitation.
To register new voters, they have to clean the old register and remove dead people. They have to clean the old register and improve to bring in new voters. They have to look at the boundaries ya constituencies ya mini wana nafasi ya kufanya, lakini ya wards pengine watafanya.
Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka also issued a stern warning against the new IEBC chair, cautioning against being used as a tool to subvert democracy. Kalonzo emphasized that this revolution will not be rigged.
You should expect the natural consequences of your action. Hii ni nchi ya demokrasia, and we shall tell it as it is to you. Ukifanya haki mbele ya Wakenya wenzako na mbele yake Mwenyezi Mungu utabarikiwa.
The IEBC has since clarified that it has neither declared nor gazetted any elections for 2027, and therefore the country is not in an official campaign period. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Boniface, you're known to talk about the trust deficit, and if there's one institution that has really suffered from a lack of public confidence is the IEBC. Now, even before it begins its work, there's already talk about there'll be no elections come 2027, that the elections will be rigged, and this is even before the IEBC declares anything. Do you think that within the next 2 years, this commission will have enough time to not only work, but also regain public confidence?
Yeah, Fred, there's a big problem in this country in that it's government hurting itself. The people who support the government are not helping in this matter. If you listen to all of them speak, most of them are saying, we will do this by all means. There's no election by all means. You cannot have a credible election by all means. And the units or the institutions of state responsible for managing this kind of utterances are not acting. People get away with these things and they've never been summoned to answer what they have said. This lady who was in my chair, she didn't even blink. She just said it as it is. It's a we. So it's a collective statement that she made for her people. And so we have to, and I think the trust deficit that I speak about, and I also speak about it because this is what is hurting this government. And if it's a legacy that President Ruto needs to have now, is to kind of work backwards and say, by the end of my term, how am I going to regain the trust? Because he started off at election time with a lot of support, a lot of trust for what he said he would do. And once you start dropping those things one by one, now you are forced to say, I was actually raising the expectations. And I was not overpromising because you now know that you have dropped that trust. And you need to build it back to a place where you regain that trust. And the time is not there. It's very short. And so I do believe that for the IEBC now, coming from the defunct one, the past one, from the last election, which had a lot of controversy, the chairman and the members, the way they were brought into this IEBC also, their own appointments, their own nominations and so on, were not very straightforward. And people question that, and now they are there in place. And I said last time that they now need to realize that they have already been put in place. And they begin to raise our confidence and trust as Kenyans. The way they are now, we don't even know. And so they need to raise our confidence that this is an independent commission. Whichever way we came into this, give us that confidence. And then they should go ahead and start showing that, because very soon they'll be doing by-elections, and then they'll be doing boundary reviews, and they'll be doing all those things. If they are used politically by somebody, and if they happen to just blink a little bit and accept any of that, you will see that this country, you're taking it to the wrong end. Kenya is known for its transfer of power, peaceful transfer of power, elections every 5 years, and so on and so on. We are not going to start thinking every year we have to have a violent counting, whatever, results. Every time, let this commission now, and this new chairman, Sedung, and I thought maybe because he comes from a smaller community, he would be probably the most fair. Mm-hmm. But it's also easy to manipulate if he allows himself to be manipulated because of not having a strong political support. But here is the question. Are they ready to work? Are they funded enough? Do they have actually what it takes to start working? And maybe I think what they're asking us, what the government is asking is, what Angola is asking is, stop raising issues, legal issues against them, going to court and so on, and allow them to work, which is, by the way, our natural way of doing things. So the matters that are before court about the IEBC will definitely be cleared. But is the IEBC ready to show us that we can trust them? Those pillars I speak about of trust need to apply here. Of character, of consistency, and so on. Enabling people to believe that once you say we are doing this as this, we believe you. It's the same thing that is demanded of the DCI, demanded of all these guys. Bring back the trust to the people, and you will see less problems. Okay. Yeah.
And even before the commissioners become identifiable to many Kenyans, because apart from the chairman, maybe most even Kenyans don't know the other commissioners by name, it would appear that we are preparing for another contested election, which may be good news for lawyers, but for the rest of the country is not what we are hoping for.
A contested election is not good for everybody because we all live in Kenya and nobody can trade their peace in your location. You remember like the contested election of the last time, there was widespread mayhem. So nobody wants that widespread mayhem for the reason that you would be involved in this or the other fights. Those fights sometimes you would rather work when the economy is stable than to work when there is a mess in your country. So most of us are actually very patriotic, and I commend majority of lawyers, because unlike very many professions, let us remember, we have defended very many people for free and for very many days. For the last 2 weeks, 10 out of 12 days has been spent doing free work. And it's not me alone. We were very many of us. Okay. But having dealt with that other issue, when I saw Honorable Wetangula, the speaker, speaking, I just asked, where is the moral authority of Speaker Wetangula to be giving this kind of advice? We have a judgment of the High Court, which has more or less, when you went to challenge it before the Court of Appeal, the Court of Appeal declined. He was held that he has been unable to be an impartial and politically neutral speaker, as it is expected. Those events that he keeps going across the country, those are political events on one side of the political divide. So that unfortunately, when in other countries, when a speaker speaks, because a speaker is almost also like the Chief Justice, a head of an institution, he has brought his institutions down in terms of trust. He's just become a party hack, just like Sudi and other people. And there is no distinction that can be made. So for him, it's a question of credibility, that she should first of all look at the mirror and see where has even Parliament failed the country before he talks about other institutions. Having said that, there is the issue of these people who have been elected. I wish them well, because they've been given a difficult job that deals with the issue of power. That the Constitution, before we go to the Supreme Court in particular, they are the ones who will have to tally results and declare who is a winning presidential candidate. And there is so much that goes into a presidential election, and as we have said, they have not started on a good note, because some of them you saw, he himself, he said he did not apply for the job. And then when he says he did not apply, you clearly can see the other link that he has to his very own nominations, the fact that he's a close relative or political ally of a key state house official. So all these are matters of concern. But again, I say this, that most of those election officials, except probably two, the guy from Luo Nyanza and the other guy from Northeastern Province, they all seem to be relatively young people, including the chairman himself. Now, one would hope, they serve for only 6 years. They have got only one chance to stand up for Kenya or to let it down. If they let it down, particularly the chairman, his name will be mentioned alongside the name of Samuel Kivuitu. It is a question of legacy. It is a question of your children. Do you want your children to be told, huyu ni kijana ya Kivuitu tu? There is a people responsible, because we are facing a make or break elections. They have to decide to do the right thing or not. And there is a good example. In America, there is somebody called Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve. He was actually appointed by Trump during his first presidency. Jerome has refused to do Trump's bidding on how to implement the American economy in terms of the issues of interest rates and what have you, and asserted the institutional integrity of the institution he heads. Even the other day, Trump was mistaking, assuming that he must have been elected by Biden, though it is he himself who elected him. So that it is actually possible, because the Constitution of Kenya says you must be appointed by the president. But having been appointed by the president to head an important institution, should you be his mouthpiece? Should you do his bidding? You are a state official, one of the highest state official, together with your officials. You can do the right thing, and your family, yourself, will be honored in perpetuity. And you have many years to live. He's definitely younger than me. You have 30 or 40 years probably to live in Kenya, and see whether you took it to the dogs the Ugandan way, or you helped the democracy to grow. It is a matter of their own personal conscience to decide what is it that they want to deal with it. They have started on a low trust level, but they can raise it. How can they raise it? There are two major issues before we go to the elections. The first major issue would be this: to ensure the petitions for recall of elected leaders are dealt with integrity and without trying to sway the issue. If you are presented with the petitions that have met the necessary thresholds, you must give an opportunity to the constituents of a particular area to determine the issue on whether that member should be recalled or not. Do not try to play any monkey games when that issue is presented. Issue number two, this issue of interpreting your mandate with regard to the issue of boundaries and voter registration, and to ensure you do your work. If you follow the law, this country will be able to keep its path, and it will help to contribute. But by the time when we enter the election season in January, February 2027, we are starting it on the right note. But if in the meantime you mess up everything, it would mean even when you declare results, whether you declare the correct results or not, they will lack credibility. So that it is really in their hands, if you ask me, whether to be seen to have done your job or to have failed in doing your job.
All right. Wakili, I can see we have about 3 minutes. What's your feeling?
Yeah, my take on this, Fred, is I think the main issue is interference from, obviously, state actors, and you've seen the speaker, and you've also heard the politicians on what they're commenting, that we will steal elections. Of course, you will steal elections using the IEBC facilities, and because it is the IEBC who have to announce. So the major problem we face is interference. But the IEBC, as properly elucidated, should remember that they are IEBC, Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. They're independent, even if they were sworn in by the judiciary and all that. Probably some friend tapped your name and said, you be elected. Once you have been appointed a judge, you must be independent. Once you are appointed as an independent commissioner, you must be independent. In fact, you have to remove yourself from the usual suspicions around. But they have a daunting task, Fred. Much as Wakili says that, those 3 points he has raised, there's another one. I don't think there's any directorate right now within the IEBC that has a working director. And then there are managers below the directors. So that's a daunting task. And that is also where we will see whether they are fair. There are professionals who will apply, and how are you going to treat them? Are you processing the applications quickly, get the positions filled in, or you'll be waiting for a phone call from some quarter? So there is quite a lot of landmarks, before we can trust them fully. Like he said, they are actually men and women of integrity. It's just that they have fallen into the IEBC, I don't want to call it a trap, but they have fallen into a very hot seat. But they can come out of that if they can quickly establish the directorates, the managers, Kenyans who will apply, if they are taken through the HR processing as a usual, activity to have the human capital at IEBC fully filled. So the major challenge for me is the external interference. But if they can stand firm as independent commissioners, then definitely Kenyans are quick to forgive and actually forget. Yeah.
Right. And according to the IEBC chairperson, he said that they've received already 4 petitions for recall of members of parliament. We'll be examining that after the break, even as I give, just before I give my panelists a time for their final comments. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back after this.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear.
All right, article, welcome back to Morning Cafe. We are on the final stretch and we need to discuss a few things, especially surrounding the possibility of a recall of members of parliament in Kenya. And I'm looking at Article 104 of the Constitution on the right of recall. And this is where it is provided for that the electorate under Articles 97 and 98 have the right to recall the member of parliament representing their constituency before the end of the term of the relevant House of Parliament. And 2, Parliament shall enact legislation to provide for the grounds on which a member may be recalled and the procedure to be followed. And I think that's where the problem is, because those 2 articles are the only, those 2 subsections are the only provision of that Article 104. So if we look at now the Elections Act, which was revised in 2016, and I think there have been attempts for further amendment in Parliament. But this one I'm getting straight from the website of the IEBC, so I'm thinking this should be the right document. And it has some very serious provisions that, for example, a recall of a member of parliament under subsection 1 shall only be initiated upon a judgment or finding by the High Court confirming the grounds specified. A recall shall only be initiated 24 months after the election, I think we are past that, of the member of parliament, and not later than 12 months immediately preceding the next election, meaning we have a very short window. Yes, the other provisions and requirements, and I think this is probably one of the toughest, is a requirement for 15% of the voters in more than half of the wards in the county or the constituency to be part of those on a list of people supporting that petition. And Boniface, the challenge has always been that this was a provision of the law that has still yet to be effected by any Kenyan because of the complexity of the same, and even the fact that members of parliament simply came up with provisions that protected their positions in parliament. Do you think that this is something feasible in the next 2 years, that we might actually see a recall of members of parliament, or should Kenyans stay away of these things? Probably it's a waste of time.
Fred, we've never succeeded in any recall. We now have less than, we've already passed 24 months. Mm-hmm. And some of those conditions are just difficult. And I think the members of parliament were doing what you would call self-preservation and protecting one another from recall. And so until actually the law is looked at and amended properly, it's not going to be easy to have a recall. It's getting the signatures and so on, that's not difficult. But even getting the judgment is not difficult. But now the IEBC has to make a ruling as to whether it's too late, too early, it's too late to start, or they are going to proceed with it. I think that we have an opportunity this time to look at, to see a recall. If nobody interferes with it, if there's no blocking of the process, because the people are serious this time about recalling some of the MPs. Mm-hmm. And if we could succeed in even one being recalled, it would really be a good, what I would call a breakthrough. Mm-hmm. And politicians now will have to be politicians representing their people.
Right.
In fact, I don't think you need to succeed to recalling them. I think citizens of that constituency need to raise the 30% threshold, of 15% of the voters, isn't it? Yes, just that. Then sign a petition. Mm-hmm. That's it. That is successful in itself. You don't have to recall, you don't have to succeed in getting the court to certify that yes, you have met the 15%, now you can proceed and remove your member of parliament. You need to succeed to raise the 15%.
To what end? If at all you're going to be able to manage to recall the MP?
Fred, that is scary enough for any member of parliament to walk with a tag in town that 15% of your people rejected you. In fact, you are only in parliament just because of some, you remember Gloria Oruoba, the senator, nominated senator. Did you see how quickly they dealt with her? So if citizens, 15% can come and actually prove that, yes, we don't want this member of parliament, that, in my view, is success enough, yes.
Okay. We are in a very interesting time that for the first time we saw the impeachment of a deputy president, and for first time we saw that it is actually possible for you to impeach a deputy president and in effect even a president. Yeah. But this one for recalling MPs appears to be a much more bigger or daunting task, given the magnitude of signatures that you have to collect. Initially it was 30%, now it seems to have been revised to 15%, but for a constituency with 200,000 votes, registered voters, that means about 30,000. It is not an easy task in any standard, Wakili.
I actually think it is easy. And there are Kenyans who are very much determined to do this. And this is largely because I'm aware personally in the Mount Kenya region. Let me explain to you something. In the Mount Kenya region, for the first time, you've heard of the word togeges. People who do not have loyalty to their people got into power. You've had recently a situation whereby official thugs have engaged in wanton destruction of private and public property in the central Kenya region without any consequence. You have had these leaders joining to accuse their own youth to be the one perpetrating this mayhem. There is a strong feeling in Western Kenya, when you have seen during this time when there have been this sugar debate of the industries, you've seen MPs from across the board speaking one voice. You've had a situation where in Luo Nyanza there is a problem, they all speak in one voice in defense of their community. In Kenya, the question of betrayal by the current group of MPs of their mandate is one that cannot go unpunished. And constitutionally, there is a provision for that. If we confirm that the matter must be taken to the High Court, it would be an easy call, because the High Court has in very many decisions ruled that where a question belongs to the people, they are the final decision makers. The High Court will not block such attempts. And therefore, contrary to the opinion that it will just be an issue of raising the votes, in those regions, people actually want those actual votes decided, and the people to decide that issue.
Yes.
The only question, and that is why I raised it earlier, is whether IEBC will do their job as required by the Constitution, or they will be told it is politically inconvenient to enforce the Constitution.
What about the legal processes? Because if it's subjected to a court process, if at all the MP in question goes and challenges the same, don't you think that this window that we have right now, about 12 months or so, is too short, and that this may actually extend and become time-barred?
The issue, as I've said, there is enough time, because the blocking period is August next year. And I believe in all these cases to do with taxes and to do with public procurement, we do it within a month or within 2 months, and they are sorted. Even election of the president, we deal with it within 30 days, and that's the end of the story. So we do not expect like they will get a lot of that, the High Court. I do not see any High Court judge trying to prevent the people who have presented a petition from exercising their democratic rights. That is unlikely to happen. And therefore, for me, the only way we can confirm whether we have a healthy democracy. Remember, Parliament as an institution has failed Kenyans. The last time when we had the Gen Z, because people keep on forgetting, was because they were tone deaf. You have a situations whereby oppressive taxation is coming. The work of Parliament is protect the people from oppressive taxation. They did nothing. They have been voting like sheep. Because the moment the president says, this is the way, they all turn as if they had not voted with any convictions on what they had just done a day before. Therefore, the question of Parliament, the only way in which you can ensure future Parliament people work and listen to the people who elected them would be by operationalization of the recall clause. So, the only issue where I can be able to give a guarantee is that there will be serious fights for this to be done. Let us see where it fails. Does it fail in the High Court, or does it fail with IEBC? But those opportunities will be granted, trust me.
It is 14 years after the enactment of the new constitution.
This issue, Fred, about the role of the High Court. Even before, we will research for this, but the role of the High Court would not be to determine whether a member of Parliament should be removed or not.
Yes.
The role of High Court here is to establish whether the mechanisms that are set out in the Act and in the laws have been met. Once they've been met, then they can say, there you are, take your person. But the High Court can, if they determine whether somebody should be recalled, then they would be overstepping their mandate.
And I know it would take time for us to go through word by word of the Elections Act, especially on the issues, the provisions around the recall of a member of Parliament. But don't you think that this Article 104 was too brief in its elaboration of the recall provision, because it still leaves it to the same legislators to enact laws that would lead to their own removal from office? Don't you think that probably that's the weakness in this provision?
Yes, Fred, and that's why it's not going very well. Because left to the members of Parliament on that self-preservation attitude or action, you'll find that they'll go slow on any amendments that would make it easier, because everybody thinks it's me next going to be removed. And I think that's what we should remove ourselves from. I think we should do the law without having ourselves necessarily in mind. We have the country and the rule of law in mind, and democracy in mind, so that we don't. I mean, if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do and I'm recalled, it should be a process, natural process of a democratic country. And I think that's where as long as it's members of parliament who are supposed to amend anything like this, I think the people will start putting pressure on members of parliament to do the law properly, so that it allows for people to exercise their democratic rights. And of course, these powers of parliament are donated by the people. It's not as of a right. Sometimes we assume that these are our own rights, and so on. They need to understand that. But it depends again on what kind of speaker you have in the House, what kind of majority leader you have in the House, and what is the state of that majority leader. What is he thinking about? It could be a victim himself. And those are the kind of things that make it difficult for the laws to be amended in Parliament.
The indictment on the part of the National Assembly is very clear, even the Senate. The fact that the events of June 25th, 2024 was a clear show of lack of public confidence in the houses of legislation. Yet it is the same house that is supposed to preside over the same act that is going to change the way they work. Are you confident that this recall, Wakili Kibe appears a bit more confident on the success level of this recall of MPs this time around? Are you as confident?
Before I answer you, actually, I wanted to say, Kibe, it's not just Mount Kenya, by the way. Now, if you come to Kisii,
yes.
Now, if you talk about other things, we will not listen. I mean, we are definitely decided to at least bringing reforms to the country, and we are willing to partner with all our cousins and in-laws and shemejis and all that. And
our neighbors.
So it is actually a high moment for every other community. And I just don't shy. I want to tell you this. Do not label other communities when they come together as tribalists. I will make this very clear. We did not like Rigathi Gachagua when he was deputy president, and I was here. You can check out our history, how we condemned him for share government and all that. But when they mistreated him, again, we are human beings. We could see that the process of removing this guy is again unfair. And now he has gone to be with his people. That is entirely constitutional. That is right. That's lawful. So do not try to say that if you gang up together as Kisis so that you stand behind your person. That is not tribal. You're simply coming together as a grouping, as a community, and you are allowed under the law. So in terms of the confidence of the recall, I said it, I said it, Fred. All you need is to raise the 15%. Then there is social media today. There's TikTok, there's YouTube, there's Facebook, there's X. People will troll you. You may not even be able to talk as a member of parliament once the 15% is raised. So in the opinion, in the public opinion, the court of public opinion, you will be done.
You seem to suggest that is as far as this attempt will go. No.
I'm trying to tell you that you should be happy when you make small steps, when you make small strides forward. That's
Remember the question about your confidence level in the process of recalling an MP.
Yeah, but
do you think we will be successful in recalling any member of parliament in this electoral cycle?
100%, Fred. As I told you, if you can handle the 15%, the rest will actually be just Rolling Stone. I mean, it will be successful, especially if that member of parliament is a person going against the grain, going against what is happening within that particular community. And that's why Kibe talks about Mount Kenya. I can assure you, if the people of Kikuyu come and say we don't want Ichungwa and they raise the 15%, I hardly...
There it will be 50. Not 15.
So you see, so yeah, and actually then our institutions, including the High Court, will have no role to try to stop the people's will. And even Parliament itself, if the figures have come out showing 40-50% are saying no, we are recalling him, Parliament will be a nuisance in case they try to block that by any form of rules or legislation. So I really pray that any constituency can bring 15%. And once that is done, let's see how then it develops. We cannot discourage anybody at this time, because of the years, because of the 2 years have lapsed, or, we have a short period to, elections. Let Kenyans exercise their rights. Let us see which institution is actually trying to block what they are doing.
All right. Yes, it is provided for in Article 104. The electorate under Articles 97 and 98 have the right to recall the member of parliament representing their constituency before the end of the term of the relevant house of parliament. That's a provision of the Constitution. Anything else is down to members of parliament to determine legislation and to provide grounds on how this member may be recalled. And the irony is, it is the same members of parliament who are being recalled. And if at all it happens this time round, it will be the very first time that it's happening under this constitutional regime. But according to the chairperson of the IEBC, they've received at least 4 petitions for the recall of members of parliament this time round. Will it happen? That's the question. Gentlemen, we have about 10 minutes or so. I'll give you each 3 minutes for your final comments. Let's start with you, Wakili Kibe.
Yes. The first one that I would like to pick, I have 3 points for 1 minute each. The first one is that one of that issue of recall. This is a democratic right. Its origin is not in Kenya. It is a right that is exercised in other democratic countries. In those other democratic countries, no serious attempt is made to involve the judiciary in matters of enforcement of that right, because it's a purely political issue, exercise of political rights. In Kenya, the fact that you have said the High Court is going to be involved, the High Court will also be equally determined to stick to its mandate and say, if a petition has cited ground A, B, C, D, it is not the role of the High Court to determine the merits or otherwise of that ground, because it's a political process. And the person to determine it are the people. If those points are raised in the petition, the High Court has an obligation to allow it to proceed, so that it doesn't give so much protection as one would assume. And if it ends up being uncomfortable, because the first part of the article you have read gives it as a right where you would say Parliament has tried to claw back on a right given by the Constitution, people will deal with it in the courts. That's not a difficult thing. And the High Court itself, or the judiciary as a whole, will also be keen to ensure that you do not appear to be part to those people hindering the exercise of democratic rights of Kenyans. And there is already the decision of Maina Kei that decided it is voters who decides all political questions in Kenya. Do we want you or we do not want you? So that there is nothing new here. It would just be to enforce the law as it already exists. That is point number 1. Number 2, is the issue that, as we speak, the issue of presidential responsibility. Presidential responsibility, in my view, requires capacity. And Kenya is facing genuine problems. I like making this point. When you are facing very serious problem, you need a team, particularly because at some stage it is good to acknowledge probably I did not bring a good skill set, a good capacity to the job that I was given. If that be the case, and Ronald Reagan was in that kind of a scenario, he was mainly a movie guy. But why do history remember Ronald Reagan well? It is that one of the most capable administration was that of Ronald Reagan, particularly guided by the guy called Becker. Becker was a high class, a first caliber administrator, a first caliber statesman who helped to shepherd the American government at that particular time and achieve so much, so that you would be able to compliment a person who was a smoothie, a sweet talker, at the end of the day had men of steel, made of high capacity in his government. Unfortunately, in Kenya, there is rhetoric from top to bottom. There is nothing to indicate that there is a difference, for example, between Wetangula in real terms and a person like Sudi, because you end up having a situations in which even a person who on a good day like Wetangula should be able to engage the 6th intellectual gear. When he's working for Kenya Kwanza, he's completely unable to engage gear 2. And that is a catastrophe for our country. Last point I want to take is on this DCI issue. The DCI issue, I think the Constitution and the Inspector General of Police is that they will need to interpret their mandate properly. And they will need, when they go to these private meetings, to be able to say that if you politicize these institutions too much, by letting us fight your political battles. Like in Nakuru yesterday, they were stopping people from holding political rallies when they themselves want to hold political rallies. The problem is going to be that a highly politicized police force will end up not becoming to do its actual statutory and professional mandate. Because sometimes the police may come today to arrest me for a genuine criminal offense. But it would appear that because Kibe is a critic of the government of the day, you are abducting Kibe, and there is politics behind it. So that will compromise law enforcement. Therefore, all that I'm saying is that we need to bring integrity, hard as it is, and capacity into how the government of Kenya is run, because we have serious problems. We want investments to continue, and we want a country where there is respect, where you do not have to disrespect parliament, the parents, after you have made it very difficult for them to educate their children and to feed them. That's all for me.
Thank you, Wakili Kibe. Wanapogisha, you go next.
Well, let me also just ride on the idea of 3 points or whatever. To say one is that there's too much rhetoric and there's too much campaigning and going around the country. Work is not being done in terms of managing the affairs of state. Everybody's running around in this country trying to prove a point, but I think nobody is asking, are the people listening? Are they listening to this that I'm saying? People have shifted in terms of what they want to hear. You cannot be the one saying everything and hoping that people are just listening and taking it in. People formed their opinions. It's up to you to come to these people and say, how do I return this people to my side? And so I don't know why the president has to carry all this burden by himself, and he has so many people working for him. And nobody working for him seems to be working, because they're all busy doing their own things and only coming out to make statements that sound like they support the government and then disappear. And I think that the president then has to carry the burden that he's carrying, so that he has to be saying something every week somewhere. That's one. And I think that if people would just sit down and say, where is this country heading? Is this where this country should be headed? Okay. And we have a special country. I don't know, we have a very special country that must be protected by all people. We can't allow it to go in the direction that some people want to take us. This country called Kenya is supposed to be the place where investors come and they feel comfortable, tourists come. It's a democratic country. And I think we should just keep it that way. So all the things that we are reading about, it is why. Do you notice, by the way, that how busy our courts are on a daily basis in this country? And how many people go to court? And what's happening is that the situation in Kenya is causing people actually to start reading the law. And so very soon, a lot of Kenyans will be able to defend themselves, actually. Because if arrests are daily, the courts are put under stress, cases which are not necessarily supposed to be there. So I really hope that we can restore order to the country, and this is the time to do it. On the other matter now, which is we just finished with, which is IEBC. And let us, if we are going to these recalls and elections, the IEBC now needs to give impetus to what they have been given as a job. Let's cause the IEBC to function. And let's see how they function. Because they have a very big challenge now that they must meet the threshold for us to start trusting them. So, Mr. Edung and your team, we ask that you guys go to work. Yeah.
Thank you. Finally, Wakili.
Yeah, in my closing remark, you see, the psyche of the country is challenged. The philosophy, socio-philosophical development of Kenya is really challenged today under William Ruto's regime. Because you see where, especially the Gen Z, the young people are getting confused. A person who opposes the government very much, like Raila Odinga, ends up being invited to sit with the president, and they work together. And that has happened not once, not twice. A person, for example, who the youngster, not so young, this guy who ran to the Nation Media Group, the Caswell, who is very, very, venomous against the government, is called and told, sit with us. Now, where the Gen Z and many young people are actually confused is then how do you turn around and abduct us? We are simply engaging the government. The young people are engaging the government. In the protests, they are engaging the government. Where the police should come in is to stop criminal activities during picketing. But where the youth are completely, shattered and confused is how is it that when we are engaging the government, people are being killed, people are being abducted. Now, I think I just want to reassure your viewers that politics really and leadership is about perception. All this thing of we will steal elections, we will come for you, these are all perceptions, Fred. You can never stop masses when they want to take a certain directions. And that is why you see the government very afraid of seeing so many people on the street. No one ever, not here, not in the developed economies, can you stop people, especially in large numbers, when they want to go a certain direction. So we encourage citizens to stand together and continue to put pressure on their government. That can never be reduced to a terrorist activity. Just don't break into people's shops, don't commit criminal activities, but engage your government and pressurize it to deliver on its promises and not on its ambitions. Yes.
Thank you so much, Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo. Samuel Pogisio served as Majority Leader, 12th Parliament, as Senator of West Pokot, as MP Kachiliba, and of course as Minister for ICT in the Kibaki II administration. And Constitutional lawyer Kibe Mungai, our panelist this morning. The headlines today are as varied as they come. On the front page of the Daily Nation, Raila says, I am with Ruto until 2027. That's an exclusive interview with the Daily Nation. Taifa Leo the same, nampima Ruto hadi mwaka 2027. On the Star, Kenyans feel the pinch as family burden intensifies. It sounds like a very old headline because this has been there. The Standard, of course, DCI gone rogue. And on the People Daily, dirty cost of power, talking about the amount of money you need as a politician for you to run a proper campaign come 2027, especially for those seeking the presidency. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time at TV47, and especially for that legal debate that we had on issues that have to do with the legal provisions that we have. A lot more coming on Morning Cafe, coming up on Morning Cafe after the break. Well, for me, this is where I dock this morning. My name is Fred Indemuli. Let's do this again tomorrow morning. Good morning.